But it's good.
I don't have anything to really add.
No, it's true.
Just gotta open the public hearing.
Well, she's gonna do it right now. Go ahead, you can read it right now.
West Boylston Conservation Commission continued public hearing notice. A continued public hearing will be held in accordance with General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, on the application of James Zigarelli, notice of intent for the construction of a single-family house, including associated driveway, utility connections, associated site work at 9 Malden Street, West Boylston, Mass. The continued public hearing will be held on Monday, November 6th, 2017, at 7 p.m. at the West Boylston Town Offices, 140 Worcester Street, West Boylston, Mass.
Okay, we did a site walk on that a couple of weeks back. Found no problems with it. Anybody have anything else they want to say on it? Give me a
Make a motion, well, anything from the public? Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to, what is it? Is it
It's a.
a NOI?
Yeah, just an NOI? NOI, yeah,
Mhm.
NOI.
Okay.
Thought it was.
That's all stuff you gave me from
This is, oh, that's Barrow, okay.
the site visits. It's just the paperwork to.
So you don't have a plan on that house, right? Just the basic footprint, you have the septic's already in it?
No, it's a septic design,
Right,
I'm sorry.
but the location, everything, that's what we're gonna.
Do you have a footprint of the house?
Yeah,
That's it.
What is it doing?
basically what he's doing is just setting up the paperwork.
You want it? Yeah, why don't
you come Yeah.
up?
I had a couple of people that weren't there.
Bill, you ended up talking to the Board of Health about it?
Pardon?
You talked to the Board of Health in terms of Title V?
I did, I just talked to Bobby on it, and they approved it.
Okay.
So, this is my present house at number 7, and this is number 11. And this is what we're proposing.
So our concerns with this, which he had resurveyed, the Waddles, we also had the next lot down, which there's a house, right. And we checked his, so basically we saw all the property, everything was fine.
So, obviously, you're gonna do it with the, any, like, hay bales, whatever you're gonna put for restrictions?
Right, we're just using the Waddle,
Yeah,
yeah.
just bottles, okay.
It's, you know, it's fairly flat. So can I get a motion on the NOI?
Motion to approve the NOI for, 9, is it 9?
It's 9, right?
Yes.
9.
I second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So we'll write the conditions on that, and we'll get it out to you 10 days.
Okay.
All right?
You know that I'm asking for, I sent you a email to your website,
Yeah.
and I'm looking for a certificate of compliance for,
Do you want to add it on to this one, this meeting, so you don't have to come?
yes, that's what,
Okay.
I mean, I did mention it last
Yeah.
meeting, and.
That's on your original house?
On my house and on this one, because there may be some confusion. When I took out the order, when I took out the notice of intent,
I
and got
remember
the
that.
order of conditions, it was for all 3 lots. This, to build a house, and then to selectively remove trees on each one of these lots.
Which you've done.
When we finally did a septic design and put a septic system in here, we did a partial release, or we did a release on this one, number 11, but we did not release this one. My tax title, I'm not tax title, my title attorney,
Mm-hmm.
said that there's still a lien on this that should be removed.
Okay,
and all
So
that.
you're asking for a release on that one there?
on both.
Well, you're gonna give me a new order of conditions, and we're gonna release
The old one?
it would be 195 to
Right.
227, 195.
So we're gonna release the old one for all 3 properties?
Right.
And just put a new one
Yeah, he has a parcel on that. A
On
new
this-
one on this
on
one,
this one?
and we'll
remove
compliance on
this
that one.
Remove this one.
Right.
Yes, this is my house.
Right, and the other one's already been released.
So all,
No, it actually has a new order of conditions. It's been.
But the old one's been
Yes, the
Yeah,
old
it's been
one's
released because of the
yes,
new one.
yes.
okay.
Superseded. All right, can you give me a motion in that effect? For the compliance?
So make a motion to remove,
certificate of compliance.
Filings for the 3 properties and just file a new one for
Two.
the. Oh,
This
for
one and
two,
this one. That one's
already
done.
been I'm sorry. For the 2 properties and just file a new one for the 9 Malden Street.
Correct.
I second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so,
Thank you.
I said we'll get it out within 10 days, all right?
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Do I have the paperwork for that one sitting here? I should have it right here. I think I got it.
the conditions, but I don't have the certificate.
No, do you have the signature page in here?
Yeah, I think it's like the next last page.
Got a second guess?
So you've got to sign a certificate of compliance too, right?
Right.
So I gotta go print that out.
Mark's out here.
Signatures.
Is that coming in, are they?
Bethlehem Church is not coming in. And planning is continuing then. And I did check with Schmitz on that, and we can continue it ad infinitum.
Yeah, I saw that email.
Yeah.
I saw that. No surprise.
I was too, but, you know, she's the one calling the shots, so.
Mm-hmm. You do the other stuff for 7:15, so you wanna do new business, old business?
Yeah, we can do that.
You can't set the public hearing.
John?
Anyone read the minutes from last week?
I did.
Last week, last month.
Uh-huh.
Did you read them?
Yeah, I already read them. There you go.
Thank you.
Never set.
Make motion to approve minutes from, what date is that?
I second.
October 5th.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any comments on the tentative 2018 Concom meeting schedule?
No,
It just said the,
not for
I
me.
think we should do the 9th of July, said the 2nd.
Yeah, you're not gonna do the second, no one's gonna show.
So the
You wanna
9th,
scratch the second?
Yeah, make it to the 9th.
Okay, so,
in September, you'll figure out
And
closer.
September is, what is
Which one
it?
is this for?
I have a problem.
What?
Oh, okay.
with this
This is for
holiday.
Okay.
the compliance.
So,
So is that supposed to be the 17th or the 7th?
so do where's my copy?
Yeah.
So July, you're gonna make the 9th, correct?
Yeah.
July the 9th,
Yep.
okay, and then,
See, September, you got, say 17th? Why,
Yeah.
what was the first 2 weeks? Labor Day 1?
Labor Day was the 3rd, and then the 10th was, my
Holiday.
conflict,
Okay.
so the 17th would be the following Monday,
Okay.
or, or like a different day of the week.
I have no
other
problem.
than-
I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
What day works for you?
17th is fine.
Cause, well, we could do it like Tuesday the 11th or something.
I think we're so far out, why don't we pick
Yeah.
a date and see as we get closer, we'll
Yeah.
narrow it down.
We'll just leave it for 17th
We'll
for
leave it
now,
for the
if we wanna
17th,
change it.
tentative.
If we need to later,
I
yeah.
mean, that's 10 months out.
For right now. If we wanna change it, we'll change it.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Send that.
Okay, we will do the water, we're close enough.
Yeah.
Anyone's gonna check us. To get the public hearing for the water.
Oh,
He's not here yet. Bill? Mike's not
Right
here.
there.
Got his reps right here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. You want the whole, folder?
Yeah, give me the whole folder, please. There you go, Emily, we'll get you busy tonight.
West Boylston Conservation Commission, public hearing notice. A public hearing will be held in accordance with general laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, on the application of Michael Coveney, West Boylston Water District Notice of Intent for the installation of a replacement drinking water well, and associated site work adjacent to the existing the existing well site off Temple Street, Pleasant Valley Well Site, map 160, parcel 16, West Boylston, Mass. Public hearing will be held Monday, November 6th, 2017, at 7:15 PM at the West Boylston Town Offices, 141, I can't read tonight, Worcester Street, West Boylston, Mass. Phew, somebody else can read the next one.
Motion to open public meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Emily, want to give me that? Give me the sheet.
All set.
Yep, go ahead.
Just the record, Scott Morrison from Ecotech here with me tonight, Paul Frisch from Northeast Geoscience. Filed a notice of intent. I provided some revised plans. Here's the existing pump house and well site here. Wetland resource areas consists of Wachusett Reservoir, which is down here, and there's another kettle pond a greater distance away.
So reservoir, kettle pond.
The existing easement is here, so this works within an existing easement. They're proposing a new easement to construct a new drinking water well, which is proposed here. You've got water and electric lines, which will connect to it. Proposed fence enclosure. Erosion controls consisting of hay bales and silt fence will wrap around the bottom here. There's also a proposed pit to capture any material that's kind of removed when they're digging that well. There's a stockpile area here, so that material will be hauled off-site. Areas are really, it's all nice coarse gravel. Kind of everything slopes down this way and this way, so we're kind of catching anything that would flow this way. There's an existing roadway that comes to about here. This is kind of like a rough kind of cart path, so there'll kind of a minimal disturbance associated with the proposed project. We filed with DCR because we're in the primary protection zone. DCR has issued a non-prohibited letter with conditions. We're also within rare species habitat. We filed with natural heritage endangered species, and we received a no-take letter. So I think we've kind of buttoned everything up on our end. It's just a matter of,
I got a quick question. How far in is the new well gonna be from any road? About?
Well, the existing road comes right to the pump station gate, which is right here.
Yep.
And now we got a scale here, 20 feet there, so you're probably maybe 150 feet, something like that. There's an existing road to that, you can drive right to that well site right now, the new well site.
This, right
Yeah,
here.
in fact, there's an 8-inch well, and I'll give a little bit of a summary if you want on sort of how we got to where we are right now, if you're interested.
No, I'm just curious about.
Where's the old well?
It's inside the pump station, right there.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
in there.
And so just for some sort of backstory on this thing, the existing well is about 120 feet deep, roughly. It was installed in the late 1960s, early 1970s, and it has very high manganese, to the point where DEP is essentially forcing the district to treat it. They're saying, treat it or find another source. So treatment's expensive, and they can't just treat that one because the Oakdale well also has high manganese and iron. And so essentially what they would have to do is build a centralized water treatment facility somewhere and pipe the raw water to that facility and treat it.
Interesting too, they're both in gravel.
Yeah, and so this well, what we were trying to do is, the last time I was here, you may remember, we were testing a site on Sterling Street at the gravel pit.
Mhm.
That didn't work out. We tried to permit it, we went through the pumping test, it didn't pass, and so we walked away from that site. This site essentially, we went to DCR and said, look, the only place that we can really site a new source is on the shore of the reservoir. And they didn't really want an additional access point to the reservoir. They don't like the ones they have now. And so we thought about it and said, look, we worked on the Boylston well number 3, which is just on the opposite shore of the reservoir. And that well, the water quality of that well is excellent. I mean, there is no treatment on that well. And we were trying to sort of figure out why that is, and you're just on the opposite side of the pond. And the theory is that we're essentially pulling in reservoir water into that well. So with this well, we said, look, this is a Hail Mary, we don't know if it's gonna work, but let's at least do the testing, is we'll site a well right on the shoreline, and with the intent of pulling in surface water. So this well is about half the depth, it's about 65 to 70 feet, this well that's here now, it's an 8-inch diameter test well. It's installed roughly the same way we would put the final production well in, but it's just smaller. And so this well is there now. If you walked up to the site, there's an 8-inch piece of steel sticking out of the ground with two 2.5-inch test wells right next to it. We pump tested that well for 15 days at 500 gallons a minute. It's a tremendous well. While the existing Pleasant Valley well was pumping pretty much around the clock. So for periods of roughly 20 hours a day during the last fall, we were pumping the site at about 1,000 gallons a minute. That's a lot of water. It's a lot of water. And we were actually pumping it into the reservoir. We were doing that because DCR recognized that how clean the water was. We're essentially just recirculating the water from the reservoir. And through chemistry data and temperature data, we basically proved that the water that's coming into that well is mostly reservoir water, and there's no manganese at all. So that's a tremendous improvement. We don't know if it's gonna maintain that quality long-term.
Do you think it'll maintain that quantity
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
because of the proximity to the reservoir?
yeah, and it's just coarse gravel. You know, the whole, you're talking 120 feet of coarse gravel in that area. So, we don't know if the water chemistry will maintain that basically non-detectable concentration of manganese, but it may, even if it were to buy the town or the water district 10 years, right? That's 10 years, they don't have to build a treatment plant. And we think it really will. We think it'll maintain that concentration, those very low concentrations. And because of all the infrastructure is there now, you've got the water mains exist, the pump station exists with all the controls, the power is there, you have an existing road, an existing easement, everything is there.
Joe,
So-
just curious, how far from here to here?
The closest
About.
point is about 60 feet.
That is
Yeah, it's close.
That is close.
It is close.
How long did it take the other well to have the high levels of manganese?
It had it pretty much from the beginning.
From the beginning?
Yeah. It's not a health hazard per se. It's only in the last maybe 5 years that EPA and DEP have sort of looked at manganese as a possible health issue. If you look on the Office of Research and Standards for DEP, it's a potential health risk, but there's not a lot of evidence for it. It's really, historically, it's been considered an aesthetic issue. So it stains your clothing, your plumbing fixtures,
Right.
doesn't look very good. If you have high manganese, you sort of get
It's
sort of a-
rusty.
yeah, it's usually a black
Most
or
people like
brown.
white shirts and not rusty shirts.
Exactly, yeah, yeah, and so, the thought is, again, all the infrastructure is there. If we can simply put in a replacement well that has, lower manganese, we can solve the problem. And we think we've done that. In the end, this is roughly what the site would look like. We'll probably have a fenced enclosure, but we don't need to. So that picture right there is just, this is actually a finished wellhead. So that's what the well would look like when it was done. That's actually an 18-inch diameter well. The well we put in is a 24-inch.
You gonna put a 24 in there?
Yeah, be a 24 by 48 gravel pack well. So it's very low impact. The final well, like I said, the average person wouldn't even know anything has changed out there. Everything pretty much stays the same. Once the well is in, we've got a trench from the pump station to the well and put the power and water lines in. But all the rest of the infrastructure remains the same.
Sounds like it's a win-win for the town, something like that.
Yeah, we think it is. DEP gave us site approval last week, so that actually gives us approval to go ahead and put the well in once we get all the other permits. And there's one other approval that we need as well, this easement. We need to act of the legislature to get the easement changed. So the water district has an easement now, which is shown on this plan, but we need to modify it to incorporate the well.
So basically, you gotta lengthen it.
There's no net change. So we essentially modified the entire length of the, so the easement goes from 140 all the way out to the well site. It's, I don't know how far you think that is, a mile, a quarter mile?
Probably
It's-
three
it's
quarters of a
three
mile
quarters of a mile.
away.
It's pretty long. It just winds all through the woods. So I'll give you the backstory on that. The original easement was not done correctly. So when we had the surveyors go out there to locate all the bounds and figure out where the easement fell, on the existing easement plan from 1970, there's no meets and bounds. It's just sort of a shape that the surveyors drew. And they do call out some boundary stones, but when the surveyors went out to locate those boundary stones, they weren't in the right place. You can actually see it on the plan. There's boundary stones called out in various locations, but they're not touching the easement. They're just sort of floating in space. So it wasn't done properly. DCR surveyor folks confirmed that. They looked at the plans that we had done, and they agreed that they weren't done properly. So what we did is we had the surveyors redraw the easement. And another problem we had is some of the infrastructure, like some of the hydrants, some of the electrical pole boxes, and even parts of the water mains were outside the easement. So nothing was really done correctly. So we had them redraw the easement so that everything was all of the water district's infrastructure is inside the easement, the new easement. And then we had it modified to incorporate the new well without changing the square footage. The square footage is exactly the same. So that should make it go through the legislature a little bit easier. So we're not asking for a new easement, we're asking to modify the easement.
So how long does that take?
It can go pretty quickly, depending on.
Boston's gotta give you the okay on that?
Yeah, so Senator Chandler and Representative O'Day have the bill that we proposed. It's the same bill that we proposed for the land on Sterling Street, just changed the names and addresses.
Now, Ted, what are you gonna do with this well here?
It will remain as a backup.
Okay.
Yep, the well.
The
will
main
remain-
feed will come off of this one?
That's right, so in the basement of that building, that's a two-story building. Right now, the well is actually inside the building, and in the basement of the building, the line comes off the pump and goes out the side of the building, sort of runs along the building and goes out the side wall. There's enough space to run a parallel line inside the building, so any flow meters, any kind of water treatment, like for corrosion control, that type of thing, when you go inside the basement of the building, instead of having one line that runs down the length of the building, you're gonna have two lines that run down.
That building was put up, I think, back in the 70s.
1970, I think it was.
I think R.H. White put that up.
They might have. Yeah, it's in great shape.
So the other one is capped off after,
Nope, it'll remain in place, it'll be a backup,
but it won't be running?
it won't be running. All the water district has to do is turn it on every now and then, collect some water samples, just maintain their sampling schedule, just to sort of keep it in as an active source. Right now, what they do for the manganese is they sequester it, so they put a chemical that basically keeps it in solution. And all that equipment will remain in place, so if, one of the things that does for the district too, is by having this existing source, or this additional source, is it allows them some flexibility. If they need to replace the pump, service the pump, do something with the well, clean out the well, they can turn this one on, if they want to,
Right.
for short periods of time.
Like you said, it's a backup.
Exactly. Yeah. We think we could get a lot more water than 500 gallons a minute out of this well, but we're not asking for additional water.
What's some of the other wells? What's their,
There's two other sources. There's the Oakdale well, which is right on the rail trail.
yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah. And then the other well is off of Lee Street.
But what's their flow per day?
Oakdale's about 400, I think, and Lee Street, right now, Lee Street has the best water quality, but it's, maybe about, I think, maybe 350 gallons.
So this is a higher yield than both
It
of
is a
them.
bigger yield, it's the biggest source, and it's, if we can improve the water quality here between this and Lee Street, you'll have enough water of excellent quality with no
I
treatment.
think it's a win-win for the
Yeah.
town.
Absolutely.
Just as far as the process goes of putting the well in, just in case anyone happens to go out there, it is a messy process. It's You've
It is,
seen
but that's
pictures-
only,
Yeah.
that's only temporary.
Yeah, you've seen pictures of drill rigs.
Yeah.
It's a sloppy mess. The-
Who's funding that? The water district?
The water district, yeah. When we do
Those
this,
fees for the, fireman's school.
Yeah.
yeah, so when they do this, they generally have a bobcat on site, and they just are constantly removing material as they're putting the well in, and they're just sort of
The overflow goes into a sump hole
they're
anyway.
just transporting that, to a stockpile somewhere, and it'll get removed after the fact.
I don't know if anybody.
Now, I'm sure that's gonna go out for
else-
bid.
It will
It's
go up a
just,
bit. Yep.
response from,
Different people.
that was just somebody.
Okay, these are the letters he already said he had.
Anything from the public?
Is this gonna have any kind of effect on the Oakdale well? Because I know the Oakdale well produces a lot of magnesium.
Yeah, the idea would be that, we'd hope that they'd be able to maintain the Oakdale well just as a
If you want to see
backup.
This is the thing from.
Between Lee
This is-
Street
Confirming
and
letter.
this well, they have enough water to supply, they don't have to run Oakdale.
Because I know that was the big problem, a big concern with the residents when they were building the 40B project on up
Yeah.
there. And, people were complaining about the water quality, everybody was,
Yeah.
And so there was talk about possibly putting in a new well. So I'm just curious on because I know that the magnesium content is extremely high.
Yeah, the idea is to keep both the existing Pleasant Valley well and the Oakdale wells as backup sources.
And so this is gonna produce enough water to support everything.
Between this site and the Lee Street well, yes. The Oakdale well, my guess is it won't actually be technically a backup, they just won't use it very often.
Joe, how many wells do they draw off now?
Three.
Three.
And does that supply all the town?
They're big wells. This is a 12 by 18, I think, which means it's an 18-inch boring with a 12-inch screen inside it. And it's, that space between the 12-inch casing and the 18-inch boring is packed with gravel. They call it gravel packed well. This well that we're proposing is a 24 by 48-inch well, so it's 4-inch,
Big well.
4-foot diameter boring with a 24-inch diameter well screen, 2 envelopes of gravel pack, so it's a very, very efficient design and produces just a tremendous amount of water.
Anything else from the public? Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
I'll make a motion.
Oh, he made a
Oh, you made
motion. Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
So, we need, what's that thing about, charging fees on that too?
Do you want this here?
That one I haven't straightened out yet, so.
Bill, do you wanna keep this, or?
Oh, the fees for this?
Yeah.
I had filed it because it's the
Yeah,
water
I'll
district,
put it
there's
with
an
my phone.
exemption from, under the Wetlands Protection Act, so they don't charge fees for the district.
Okay.
So that's why we
Okay.
didn't pay the
That's what that is, okay.
Yeah.
Alright, so you need a motion to, what?
To, we'll close the public hearing, and we want to make a motion to,
Very close public hearing, yeah, so we just need a motion.
just a motion for this, to accept it as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I make the motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We'll write the conditions on that. Just basic water,
Yep.
that.
Perfect,
Thank you,
I
Gary.
appreciate it, thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very
All
much.
right,
Yeah, thank you. Toby,
You
wanna keep
$160,000
this here?
goes, right?
Yeah, really.
that plan,
What is that?
that's from the Department of Wildlife. Confirmation,
I have my own copy.
it's a confirmation letter.
Is that something new?
You may have a copy of that.
No, you've got it
Oh, no,
right here.
that's what I passed out.
Yeah, I got it,
Yeah,
right
have
here.
a copy.
Let's
There's
put it
your
with
other
the
copies right there.
So, all right, well, we've got the signature page here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Who's-
the engineer, I don't know. This one is,
We're gonna go over this on Sunday.
yeah, we'll go over it on Sunday, but you're gonna need the conditions on it.
There's no room here.
Put it right up top, that's fine. You have the one on Beardsley? Beardsley? It'd be the continued, yeah. Just give me that, and I'll give it to Emily. Third time's the charm.
I'm not reading another one.
Come on.
No, somebody else can read it. You're laughing, I told you, I'm not good at that.
I thought you were only
To me
kidding.
anyway, 2 in a row.
All right, continued public hearing will be held in accordance with the general laws, chapter 131, section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act on the application of Andy Beardsley, request for determination of applicability for the determination of that isolated vegetated wetland delineated on a certain portion of the site would not qualify as a bordering vegetated wetland or isolated land subject to flooding under Wetlands Protection Act regulations at 19C West Boylston, Mass. Continued public hearing will be held November 6th at 7:30, right?
Right.
Yeah, at the West Boylston Town offices. Got the date wrong on that. The date's wrong on that.
You're on.
Good evening, folks. So Scott Jordan from Ecotech, back again. I forgot an easel. Is your preference that we?
Put it right there on the table, that's fine.
Or-
It's Public can see it too.
So just a refresher, filed a request for determination of applicability a few months ago. Seeking a determination on a wetland that we found at 19 Crescent Street, that I personally delineated. And we found this wetland to be an isolated wetland. It does not have a channel that drains it, that would become an intermittent stream. It does not border on a creek, stream, lake, pond, per the regulations of, definition of bordering vegetated wetland, has to border on creek, stream, river, lake, or pond. So it does not border on any of those. We call it an isolated wetland. The area of it was fairly large, but the ponding portion of it is limited to this area. So we had Jay Finley, who was present here from Finley Engineering, run some computations that the regulations have to determine if an isolated wetland could be an isolated land subject to flooding, which is a resource area under the Wetlands Protection Act. And basically those calculations determine if you had a 1-year storm, which is like 2.5 inches in 24 hours, what would the ponding capacity be, the volume of this thing be? And if it was a 1/4 acre by a foot deep, it would be isolated land subject to flood. Computations show that it is not. Again, that's a theoretical thing. You run computations based on the watershed that drains to it, soils, that kind of thing. So our determination was it's not an ILSF, isolated land subject to flooding. It does not border on a stream, a river, a lake, or a pond. So it's an isolated wetland. And it is not one of the protected resource areas under the Wetlands Protection Act. It's a federal protected wetland. And, we can't put a teaspoon of fill in there without a federal permit. And we have no intentions to do that, I don't believe. So the RDA we filed, there's a couple of questions on an RDA you can submit to a board. And the question we checked off was, is this delineated area an area subject to protection under the Wetlands Protection Act? So we're seeking a negative determination that it is not. There were questions about whether it, DCR is always a concern in the town. We were just looking at the map out there. It's not mapped. This is the DCR online data viewer. The site is here. Primary, secondary zones, we're not in those mapped areas. I ran for Zone A, I ran for medium and high yield aquifers. We're not in any of that. And, you know, that lines up with the map we have here in the town hall. It is not subject to jurisdiction under DCR, under the watershed regs. There was some discussion of some yard drains further up in some backyards. And I can't go in there, but if that ever came up that high, that it would reach that, I don't know how frequently that would happen, but when we look at the regulations, is there a jurisdictional connection to some drain somewhere? Is there a channel? Does the BDW continue and touch those? So we don't have that. The only thing I could do, I looked at some aerials, just thought I'd show you these. Available aerials on Google Earth for the past few springs, and in Google Earth, if you go back, there's a clock, and they have pictures, random pictures, this year, that year, and so these are from mostly April or May of a few years, and we don't see any indication of an imprint of water up in the backyards there. So just for perspective here, the wetland area is in here, and from what I understand, there's yard drains up in here. So this might indicate ponding back in here, which is consistent to what we delineated. So here's a 2015, we have a 2005, 2016, April, and this is a really old one, poor quality, 2001. So I just ran that, just curious. It doesn't look like that's an annual event if that does happen. I don't know how frequently, but either way, we're talking about jurisdiction under the regulations. Definitions under the regulations is no, you know, our jurisdiction is bank, water vegetated wetland, isolated land subject to flooding, floodplain, etc. Again, we don't believe this qualifies as any of the resource areas that are protected under the Act. So that was my refresher. And if you had any specific questions, I could try to answer those.
The federal protected wetlands, do you need something from them saying that you're not in the jurisdiction?
There's no buffer zone. Federal wetlands do not have a buffer zone.
They don't.
No.
Just comes under their
No
jurisdiction,
intention to,
and they can't
alter-
fill it.
No intention to alter this wetland at all. And if we did, then I'm told the client that would require a federal permit. It is a wetland.
Yep.
It's protected. But
It was a good
it
learning.
doesn't fit in any of the holes in any.
Does that dry up in the summertime?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was on there a few times. I started going there, I think, around May. And I think, you know, in June, it was bone dry. I imagine it's flashy. There's a good rain. It puddles again. Really, the puddling's limited to, you can see that it flows, it's tipped this way a little bit, so. The ponding area I've seen is down in here, very shallow, very flashy, comes and goes quickly.
Quick question, in conjunction with where his building's gonna be, how far is that from that little pondy area?
I honestly have no idea, development-wise.
Do you know?
You know, Ron?
Yeah, the plans are in front of it, but, from the edge of the wetlands, approximately to the back of the buildings is approximately 40 feet. The pond, you can see by the contours, the wetland drains completely through. There may be some little areas of depression here and there, but it's not a closed basin, it's not a hole. There may be some tiny pockets of holes that gather water here or there, but you can see, these are 2-foot contour intervals. We're going steadily down 2 feet, another 2 feet, another 2 feet. and another foot out, right out of the area. So there's nowhere to pond it, so when we look at the isolated land subject to flooding, it can't hold 6 inches of water,
Mhm.
because it drains.
Right.
So, from the wetland edge, it's about 40 feet to the closest building, maybe 25 or 30 to potential deck or patio in the back. But again, that's to the edge of the wetlands, and any pond, any, minor ponding down in this area here, so there's another 40 feet.
Seems to me that's a pretty insignificant area down there.
It seems to be.
How many buildings they proposing? One building?
One building.
How many units?
11.
They haven't calculated in all the drainage on Newton Street, which is gonna change all those calculations, up to the better, obviously. I did do my research like you told me, and I do concur with your findings,
Yeah.
but I had to,
It's a wetland.
I had to do everything, you know.
Nice looking little wetland. And we have no intentions of altering it. But from the State Wetlands Protection Act, it doesn't qualify as a.
Yeah, it's strictly federal. So, you wanna close the public hearing? Well, is there anything from the public? Yes, go ahead, sir.
question.
Yep.
If it doesn't comply with the Massachusetts wetlands, why does it show up on the Mass DEP online map for your wetland change area? It's quite clearly delineated.
I went to DCR, and they had no jurisdiction. I went to
Can I
DE.
show you this?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a couple of extra copies, not very good
No,
copies.
it shows up on, there's a couple of,
But it's Mass DEP.
Yeah.
Wetland.
it's a wetland.
Right.
You see, it's.
And DEP will have jurisdiction on this, we do not,
Okay.
because of what he said. They actually have a definition in 310. It states exactly what it is, and he's absolutely
Well,
right.
And I'm obviously a layman at this, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but from what I read, there was a setback on this type of wetland of 100 feet, where any activity, construction activity, laying a path or anything like that would require a permit from Conservation Commission.
Well, my finding in doing my research over the last month, this is non-jurisdictional for us. It's outside our purview.
The other thing I was
But
just
he
like-
could answer better. He's an expert in the field.
The online mapping tool, the GIS mapping, is just a tool that shows rough areas of all kinds of things.
But it does show a wetland.
It shows that there's a wetland there.
Oh, it is a wetland. I'm
And
not
then
arguing
we go
that.
on the ground, folks who are trained, and we see, well, what type of wetland is it? And usually those maps are pretty correct. Sometimes there is no wetland there, but usually there is. And I can find the exact boundary of that thing, and that's my job, is to locate it and mark the boundary, looking at the soils and the plants. And while I'm doing that, I'm evaluating what type of wetland is it. And, the Mass Protection Act, or Wetlands Protection Act, has certain wetlands they define that will be protected. And, the main one is bordering vegetated wetland.
Right, I understand.
Vegetated wetland, this is a vegetated wetland, but a bordering vegetated wetland
Feeds
borders
into another
on,
body of water.
borders on means it touches
Yeah.
a creek, a river, a lake, or a pond, and this does not.
Mhm.
So, yeah, there's a wetland there, I found it, I delineated it.
I mean, my
My
question
report
is,
says
is
it's
if there
federal
is a wetland there, is there any setback?
Because it's a federal wetlands do not have a buffer zone, do not have any setbacks.
So it's federal, but it's not a state or a town?
It's not, doesn't qualify as a state wetland.
That's why the setback doesn't
It might
exist.
as well be an isolated wetland the size of this table. It's a federal
The other-
wetland, and I flag wetlands sometimes that are this big, just a little circle, and I tell my client, this is a federal isolated wetland, it doesn't qualify as anything under the Wetlands Protection Act, but you can't alter it without a permit from the feds.
The other point I would like to make, I haven't seen the Google Maps, but I live right here. Where am I? Where am I? Here. And so I directly overlook this particular area. Yeah, you can see. Where are we? No, that's not. Yeah. This particular area at the bottom of my property has standing water in it just about every spring, late February, beginning of March.
Well, he identified that, and that's true. He has flashing points of water that will puddle there. He needs it 6 inches, according to the calculations. My point is, you need 6 inches, it's gonna stand 12 months. We don't have that. You don't have rivers, you don't have ponds.
Well, there's a lot of flooding going on.
No, I'm not arguing that, but the drainage that they're putting in Newton Street now should alleviate a lot of that.
Not necessarily, because where it feeds into is into a storm drain adjacent to the Smiths property about here. It comes, the storm drain is coming down Newton Street. At the corner of Newton and Prospect, it veers off to the left, and then it goes left along Prospect to a main storm drain on Prospect Street, and that's where it terminates. So there's going to be all of the water that previously would come down the hill
Exactly.
from Newton Street
Right.
is going to be channeled from both sides of the street into this storm drain that is presently being installed in Newton Street, and it will then go along Prospect Street to a single point here,
Right.
which is
Except on the other end, which goes through the Bernardin property.
It
The
get- that goes-
easement that goes
yeah.
down,
okay. That goes the other.
that will feed into this.
Yeah, Richard Putnam, 52 Newton Street. Sylvia
It
Brown.
would have been a vernal
60
pool,
meters.
but the people who put the pool in effectively killed all the wildlife. Because that drains into it too when they drain the pool.
Well, my major concern was, I live right in Scarlet Street, so I know.
exactly.
Jack, I
Was
can
that-
see your house from mine.
I didn't want the water, being slid down, passed over the road and that type of thing, so I didn't really want this touched.
Carl, did you get this?
But he's
Yes, yeah.
absolutely correct, we don't have jurisdiction on it, but the feds do.
But they're not
Does
gonna,
DCR have jurisdiction?
No. I went to DCI, I went to DEP, I went to every single stakeholder that there would be, and I have letters back from all of them, or emails, or nothing.
this was a week ago.
And they all concurred that
After we had
that
10
was exactly what he said it is.
Well.
No, because you're not the only people, I had a lot of other calls.
I hope you know what you're doing, because as we've seen all too often, buildings adjacent to areas liable to flooding make for a lot of problems.
I don't disagree with you, that's,
And if you're putting in large impermeable surfaces for parking lots and everything, it's just gonna come through. But you know
well, that,
about
no, that's all gonna come under the engineering part, which is not us,
Yeah, I know.
that's
I
the
know. I'm
zoning.
just gonna say that
That's
that is
something,
gonna further
that's something that
complicate
they
that.
have to do a site plan.
They'll do a site plan.
They have to give that to
Correct.
the planning board.
So just for the record, through this letter from DEP, say there is no, wetland,
That's right,
so that should be entered into the, records.
that's why I had it
Right.
done, I sent it out, I sent it to you.
Yeah. Mm.
I appreciate the effort you made.
So, that was a good presentation, it was very good.
Thanks.
So, any other comments from the public?
Do you want these for the record?
Yes, please, I would keep them. Close
Make a
vote.
motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Okay, you wanna make a motion, we'll just,
So it's a NOI again?
no, there's an RDA.
RDA. Motion to approve the RDA for
No, you want a negative finding on it?
negative determination.
And there'll be no conditions, I mean, outside of the walls and that, so it doesn't protect I wanna protect what's there.
Yeah.
You're gonna do the walls anyway, right, on the construction? You're gonna do walls and anything on the construction part?
Oh,
Yeah. So it'd just be the standard type stuff we do. All right. Anything else, any comments? None?
In a second.
Need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Taking or should be on here.
I have it here. I know your concerns, I am gonna watch this, believe me.
Well, I think DCR's gonna have to get involved.
They can't, they have no jurisdiction.
But the planning board will definitely be involved.
Planning board's where you wanna be, because the engineer is,
Planning
that's the
board's the
key.
one, that's gonna tell you
They're
where,
gonna have to take care of the drainage.
where it's
Right, all
gonna
the
drain to and
drainage, they
stuff
said
like
it's
that.
gonna go,
Yeah.
That's where the site plan gets reviewed by the planning board. And the drainage has to go a certain way, however they design it, the engineer's gonna design it. So what'd you say?
Strangled with Diddy.
My suggestion to you people is to pay close attention to the planning board,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you guys came first, so.
No, that's
Yeah.
fine.
I know.
We appreciate you coming, but I'm just,
But that's why we continued it a month, because I really didn't know the answers myself, and I've been sitting here about 20 years.
I'm just perplexed as to why it shows up as wetland on.
Well, because it is wetlands, but it's who has the jurisdiction on it.
But it's not your normal wetlands.
You know, like retention ponds that come off the
Yeah, yeah.
highways, those are not our jurisdiction, that's federal government.
it's federal.
But it is wetlands, and we do protect them, and when they want to do maintenance and that, they come to us to do that.
Weird.
I always thought that was your job, but.
It's
I
outside the
guess
normal
not.
box.
I guess not.
Nobody's in charge.
Well,
Thank you. Public hearing for,
That's-
church has been,
I'm just gonna continue that, and I'm gonna put it on other business rather than carry it on this. I've got 7 minutes. I could make you sit there, but I'm gonna let you come up.
for the record, I'm gonna recuse myself for this here.
Okay.
They don't even look alike, but they're evidently got, share the same blood. We gotta be careful.
John?
now.
Hey, bud.
Bill? Dave?
Sorry, Steve, I can't sit into this
Oh,
one.
that's okay. All right, Dave.
Toby, make sure that's in the record, okay?
Right.
I spoke with, Bill. I called him and he, come up to the site.
Steve, just say your name for the record, so, because it's on TV.
Steve Mercurio,
Okay.
16 Fort Niagara Drive, West Boylston, Mass. And,
Oh, you're related to that, Mercurio.
yeah. And, the property in question is off of, 408 Worcester Street, but down in back, the property has two streets on both sides, and the place that we're proposing to clean up and, basically build up the area a little bit is on Lombard Avenue. And this place it's always been there for years. My father had, so forth, and we're just cleaning it up, and it's a little pathway that actually we get.
Remember the one we had all the problems with the police and all that? He's the other corner,
Okay.
all right?
We used to go back, and we still do, bring the tools back to the shed and stuff. And then, you know, over the years, the pathway has kind of eroded a little bit. So Bill's been out, we put wattles down in place already, because the property line does abut the DCR. And we're not changing anything at all. We're keeping it the same, and we're just building up the roadway a little bit.
He's putting down some dense grade on an existing
And that's it.
driveway.
That's all we're
He's
doing.
outside the 25
So
foot,
you're
but he's
just doing
inside
repair.
70. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
But because he's doing it, because it's DCR,
You want to
I was concerned.
That's right,
I just don't want to go ahead and do something and then be
Good to be
sorry.
concerned with DCR. It's always good to be concerned with
Exactly.
DCR.
Yeah,
so what I told him to do is come down here, file an RDA,
yeah.
which will be next month. But you can continue doing your work and everything, because you're really not doing anything anyway.
I'm not
I'm
excavating.
just trying to bring up the paperwork to your speed.
And I thank you, you know, and I appreciate you taking your time to come out and talk to me and advise me on the situation and tell me to come to the board. And, like I said, I'm not doing any excavating at all in any way, shape, or manner. I'm just building up the area a little bit, because over the years, it's settled.
You just want to repair.
Yeah.
I wish he could get his neighbor into us.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding.
What's the difference for
And, you know, when we spoke earlier, when you came up to talk with me, did you say that there might be, the DCR might be considering cleaning up their area?
They were gonna clean it, and
It's such a
evidently,
mess over there.
they decided not to do it.
Are they not doing that?
No, they didn't get funded.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
They didn't have those guys out with the buckets, I wanted to see that.
Oh, yeah, they were gonna shovel it
didn't
out.
they do any
They were
of
gonna
those?
do it by hand, shovel the dirt, the.
Oh, years
wood.
ago, I remember, that's what I was brought up when I was a kid, and they used to keep those places manicured like your lawn, beautifully fenced off.
You had goat yard ticket, that's what kept it manicured.
They had a wooden trough, and they would repair the wooden troughs. All this work was done by hand years ago, and now to look at it, it's a shame, it's in shambles. And not only that, I don't know if you guys know, but you must know, all those
The culverts, They're all gone.
They
Every one
are,
of them.
they are
That's
settling.
not,
People are gonna get hurt. They're
last
falling
meeting.
apart inside. The DCR doesn't
All
care.
this stuff?
Yeah, I want to put it as part of the file.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
And I'm sure you guys are well aware of what happened over on Kings Mountain in Worcester
We
Street.
did that one earlier
It's
tonight.
just,
Yeah.
someone could have got killed there. And unfortunately, all those side streets that run from Worcester Street down to Route 12, all those bridges are all in desperate need of repair. They're falling apart. The asphalt is penetrating through the concrete, falling into the brook as we speak. They're constantly patching it.
I'm surprised that the DCI doesn't do anything about that.
Well, they put in for the money, we just didn't get it. And I don't know why.
We don't, we're gonna, hopefully, it's gonna come out of the, FEMA.
Are
Hopefully.
we gonna do the culverts?
No, we're doing that culvert, because you have to do that culvert, because
Right.
it collapsed. But it's gonna cost $135,000.
Who's paying for that?
Well, yeah.
The town?
Why would it be DCR? Because it's a DCR.
Did DCR try to get state or federal money?
Huh?
State or federal money?
Well, they're gonna try to see,
Well, it'd be state money.
they're gonna try to see if it's, because of the storm,
Hmm.
you know, if they declare it an emergency at all.
That's
Yeah,
right, if
on
we
that
did
day.
emergency, could get the money from
Or you get,
FEMA.
we
we
can get
give them-
75% back.
Well, that's
Yeah.
all the infrastructure doesn't, unfortunately, I understand this, because we've seen it, we're in the business, we do a lot of masonry repairs. Infrastructure does not last forever. But this is getting bad enough where someone can really, someone's gonna get hurt.
Well, that's only a steel, corrugated steel underneath that.
Yeah, underneath that one, I can't believe it's lasted so long.
I
And
can't
I,
believe either.
I've got a good-sized truck, and I go over that every day, and I'm surprised I didn't go through it. But the other ones that, next to the property right here that I'm working on, all these, they're solid concrete, but they're falling apart.
Yeah. Well, once they get the crack, you get the metal gridding inside, rusts out, and then that's the end of it.
I'd also like to make a note, Adam Mercurio, 16 Fort Niagara Drive.
Okay.
We did, did you have the DCI come down and mark it with the tape?
Yes.
The pink tape, so
Yes.
we tried to stay a little bit more, but I put 4 foot just in case it staggers or varies or anything. But
Right.
just so we can maintain that gravel road as well. So when we're maintaining that edge, we're still on our property as well too, so we're staying 4 foot off of
Yeah.
their boundary, just so.
That's
you know,
fine.
and
Yeah,
the
he showed me,
setbacks and measurements.
he showed me the line on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that once you get inside the 100 foot, you need the permission.
Right,
So
that's why I wanna do everything right, so.
Do I need the
They're
paper?
there all the time.
So they get a file?
Yeah, I'm gonna make him file next month, but
Okay.
he can keep doing his
Yeah.
work now.
Can I have the paperwork, what I have to sign now for it?
Do you have an idea?
I thought I printed that out.
And then I'll fill it out and do it, does it come back to you,
Yep.
or, okay?
Just drop it off at the clerk's office here.
And any additional, besides the wall that we put down, do you guys?
No, you guys.
Okay, so that's sufficient enough,
Yeah.
okay, perfect.
It's
Oh, thank
online.
Can you print one out for him?
Online.
Thank
What's
you
that
very
on?
much.
It's online, the RDA.
Well, she's just
Oh,
gonna
she can
print
do
one
it?
right now.
Okay.
and give
Cool.
it to
That
him.
makes it
Thank you,
easier.
guys.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you so much, guys. Have a-
Hang on one second, and Toby will
Okay.
give you that.
David, you come back.
Oh, he went home.
I ate all the donuts.